Good evening, everyone. This video is going to be a trading review and support session for October the 19th, 2022. So we're going to go through the trades first and see if there's any questions. Every now and then my finger seems to regress a little bit and fall back into an aggressive kind of position. And that was kind of the thing today. I'm not sure why. We're going to look at some trades today that weren't necessarily set up very well, and some that could have worked. So I actually recognize that, and I actually fought a few trades today. It all worked out, but it's not exactly how I want to trade and how I prefer to trade. So let's just kind of go through it. Today, Netflix had some pretty positive earnings, so let's just kind of go through how we were starting the day real quick, and I'm going to do that with the big picture chart. So this is today. So Netflix had some pretty good earnings, so the market was up, but it didn't really stay up there. So it was already kind of coming back down. And let's see, this is about where we opened, coming off of S1, a hit to S1. So it had come off of those lows. It was kind of bouncing. Ended up, and today was the beige book day, and so really they pretty much sold off prior to the beige book's announcements. This is 10. The beige book wasn't released until 11. So overall the beige book, after the beige book, the market moved up some, but it really had kind of sold off prior to that. I did not trade any more in the afternoon after the morning trading session, but it was an okay session, even though I had to fight it a little bit. All right, so here we are. We're above everything, right, and we're running away. So I take a first trade here and didn't quite get out. So I pulled back, went for 1 point, so got out here, right? Continuing to be pretty well aligned. Kind of waited for a while for it to clear this area in the 25% lower line in VWAP. So got another trade here. This one I took for full 1.5. That one was 1. And so here's my first aggressive move for the day. And I had already kind of talked about that, right? I'd taken, one trade and two trades in this direction. Many times it's the third trade that gets you into trouble. So it had pulled back some, and this was the alignment was pretty good. It's okay, but it was at the top of the conservative EMA band, which means it's a pretty far away from the EMA itself. And but most importantly, and I talked about this, these areas breaking out above the a 4 pivot or something important, in this case the 2x200, uh, doesn't always work. And then what got me, and I put it into the comments here, I knew it was a little bit aggressive, but what got me was the double expansions, right? Back-to-back expansions. So I got in, and so it wasn't all the way up to the guide band just yet. So I had a little bit of room before it was short term, very short term, overbought, but it didn't work. So, but the double expansions kind of got me into the sticking to it kind of a mode, and so I stuck with it. So let me move before I put anything else on the chart. Let me get this into perspective here. So I let it come back. Didn't add to it for a while. Let it come back to the EMA, and just to see if it's going to hold. So at the EMA and the volume point of control, and pretty much close to mid S1, it did have a Forex Renko and a 2-bar combination, right? Again, popping above the EMA again, right? The EMA hadn't stepped up, and it was above Ultraflex, but Ultraflex hadn't turned. But I was trying to get an earlier entry, so that was one addition to the long side. And I think I might have added one more. Let me take a double look. Yeah, I actually even added one more here. So right now I've got, so at that point I had 3, and needed it to come up a little bit more. I think my exit was going to be somewhere, at least some exit was going to be right around there, but it didn't make it. Sometimes it comes up to there and then decides to make a down move. So I didn't quite make it. So big down bar with double bar with the 2-bar combination. So I had to take a look at it, and so I reversed a little bit too late, honestly. I mean, this is a pretty good down bar. I did not reverse until right about there, right? Didn't reverse till right about there. So I made it break the 25% lower line. But really, I could have saved myself a little bit if I had reversed earlier. So I reversed and added, and then added one more time here, right? So, it did, and this was what I was playing, right? It did the up. Oops, that wasn't a very good line. The second try, it did the up, right? That was a little bit better. And so it's not holding, right? So I'm expecting it to do the down, right? And down means it's going to get to at some point it's going to get to back to the open, which it did, right? So I had the long position reverse short added to it, and was scaling out, so it would be out of the last by the time it got to the open. Actually, it looks like I may have been able to stretch it a little bit. So I scaled out, but I didn't get all my money back. At this point, that was one. So as before this entry, I was up 2.5, right? And by the time I got out, including and this was just on a gross basis, I had lost 3 ticks. So I was up 1 and 3/4, I believe, is what I was up. So I lost 3 ticks. So, and paid some commission. So that was kind of like my first aggressive positions. I mean, I guess I traded it okay, since I had moved my stop out of the way. I could have been a little bit more patient, maybe on adding, could have been could have reversed a little bit sooner. But sometimes that's the case when often that's the case in that situation. So my aggression continued, right? Unfortunately. So here's my next trade, right? So I went short here, right? And yes, it is in the right direction, but it was also a little bit above Ultraflex. But I stayed with it, came back up here, and got it back into the fast zone, kind of rolling over here, got the other entry, and was out. Where did I get out? Let me roll over my exit point. Yeah, so I got out. Well, let's see. This is out. This is supposed to be over there, and this is, I think, is supposed to be somewhere over there. So I'm out over here, somewhere over here with a profit, and then I think I mislabeled that. So so I was out there, and then let's see. This entry, this is at 646. So I'm out here. I was kind of going back and forth. It's kind of hard to tell what some of these entries were. I moved my this one was an entry right about there, I believe. Yeah, so that one was there. Then I entered here and here, right? So again, kind of aggressive here, right? So I'm really at this point today, not necessarily waiting. I mean, it's a good lesson on how well being patient works. So this was into fast flex, right? And Ultraflex was coming down, right? But I had just gotten out of this trade, right? I did okay adding to it and getting out, but then I got right back into it, right? So I had to wait, pull back, here. I didn't want. I wanted to kind of get out, a little bit earlier, so I added to it again. It's coming my direction, and so I was actually out right around there, right? Again with the profit. So this aggressive comment should have been back over here at that entry. All right, so that kind of lines up now. So made profit again. Should have been waiting, right? So waiting to here until all the flexes were aligned would have been better, right? I could have got out prior to S1, right, and wouldn't have to add to it. Wouldn't have to worry about that a little bit. So at this point, I said I was should have been cautioning myself, but then again, pulling down from the fast zone, right? And so I took an entry. I put the arrow here because if I put it up there, I couldn't even see it. So did arrow again. Now what's wrong with that, right? So it's kind of aligned somewhat, but fast flex is still going up. It's well above slow flex, and the EMA is going up. So again, pretty aggressive entry. I got fortunate on these things because all of them I was able to get out with profit. Let me make sure I've got my entry points here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 1. So yeah, there, and then again. Oh, here. Okay, there, and then I'm out for profit again down in this area. So again, being a little aggressive, and it's just so much easier to wait until all the flexes are aligned. And so every now and then maybe I just need that lesson again and to be patient. I mean, even though I made as you see in a minute, I ended up with 14.5 points gross. I also had some commissions, and I was quite profitable, but doesn't mean it wasn't without its risk. Little 1 point trade in here, and again, I was a little bit fortunate to get out because again, my finger is too doggone aggressive today. So, but I did get out there for 1 point, and at this point, I'm still going. I'm going for 1 point on everything. I'm already profitable. Let's see, where am I at here? Oh, I went long here. Again, not necessarily great alignment. Should have waited over here when it had much better alignment. But I just kind of held it. Oh, I did add. So I still had 2, and then I'm out again, right? Here was actually a good trade. Well, here's an okay trade, and I'm out. The second one, and I'm out. This one is much better, right? Because it's catching everything. This was a little speculative, but I made it. This one was much better, right? When the Ultraflex is moving and everything is going, and ultimately had an expansion. I probably could have even taken another trade, but at that point I was a little bit aggressive. So I think I got one more trade, and I'm trying to tell myself not to be as aggressive. And here it is, and really a trade in here might have been even a little bit better, but I was cautioning, and it looked like the minute average was going to break down, and hopefully it did, but I just barely got out. I mean, I think I got out on, the low I think was at my target, and with what I was doing today, I still would have made money because I would not have let it stop me out, and it rolled over. So 14.5 points gross. Didn't ever have huge positions, but I did have some positions, more than I really want to going forward. But you can see waiting, like here, right? Waiting for these flexes to line up and going away from something. In this case, going away from the 3-minute close in the EMA, and it's already back underneath the minute average, even though it's in the fast zone. This is good alignment. So just taking those is really a much preferable way. And ultimately, I mean, if you really are patient with those things, they you don't have to go for 1 point or 6 ticks. You can go for 8 and get a much better risk to reward scenario. So I'm still thinking about that, right? So in that case, one loss and 2 wins get you positive, even on a net basis, instead of 3 point stop out. It takes 2 wins to get back to break even. So it would be a better risk to reward. Not doing that yet, but it may be coming. It may be coming. The possibility that we could hit, 4 points real quick, and then if you want to get a little bit more conservative, then you can. All right, so kind of a lesson of old aggression, but didn't get too carried away. But I'll try to be more relaxed, and that's actually kind of what I've noticed. The more relaxed I am, and the more patient I am, and waiting for these flexes to line up, sometimes I have fear of missing out. Right, you don't want to miss out on this trade, but really, if you just wait for these things to line up, then your day is more relaxing. All right, so any questions on that, or any other software questions, since we just released software? It was just kind of an instinct. One, I didn't think, well, instinct and maybe a little bit intuition. I didn't think the market should be. It was no reason for the market to be up, in my humble opinion. Of course, I would prefer not to trade opinion, uh, just trade the indicators. But let's take a look. Right, so this is today. Market was way up there, right? And about the only kind of news that it had was Netflix. Nothing else was going on, right? So the economy data numbers weren't bad, which means there wasn't really any oomph to the market. It was above the 20-day moving average, and it really wasn't a super high volume day. So let me put that on top of. So this is today, right? So we started out up in here, right? Well, did we really have any information available to us that says we should really be, blowing the top off of the 20-day moving average and going up? And for me, the answer was not yet. So I played it to the upside early, and then that didn't work out. So down it came, and then it also made me a little bit more willing to maybe stretch it to the downside a little bit. Maybe that's why I was, my aggressive entries continued a little bit on the downside, because the market had made its move down. So it was probably just kind of a mixture of all of those. But those when you make an aggressive entry, and you're certainly more susceptible to a 3-point stop out. And I guess my finger wasn't having it today. I did have to reverse once, right? So it's not without, taking that position occasionally is not without its risk, right? Of having to recognize that the market's not going to go your direction, and you better go with the market instead of hanging out all day long. So if let's see, minimize that. So if I had kept, let's see, where am I at 6:30 here-ish, right? So it's in here, right? So let's call it, I was in the 37.30 range. For me to have to weight it all the way down, right? That would have been, I would have had to hang out for 28 points before I could come up to probably get out of that trade. Way too much, right? So I did have to recognize that the market was not going in my direction, and go the other way. but I was out well before ultimately that bottom hit. I mean, I was out by the open 37.13. I'm not going to. I'm going to try not to defend. I mean, I like it much better when I wait for the alignment, right? So it's not my intention to defend. Today I just recognized that I was taking some risky kind of trades, and for whatever reason my finger was getting away. So tomorrow I'm going to try to be back to waiting for more conservative trades in alignment with direction. That's my intent. Okay, doke. All right. Thanks. Let me get this video processing, and I'll post it, and we'll talk some more about defending tomorrow, and it not being my intent. And I mean, just as today, right? Waiting for these alignments is much better. It's much better. All right. So have a good evening, and we will talk to you soon.